Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for the patience. Today, I'll be talking about a tool that me and my friend created called the Time Machine. So this tool basically works on your Wayback Machine, and it gets all the hidden endpoints that a developer might think that it's no longer over the internet or they're forgotten. But as we know, internet never forgets. So me and my friend created this tool. Uh, just based on this idea to get more and more information from the Wayback URLs and Wayback Machine and use it in our daily bug bounties and pen tests. So the agenda for the talk will be I'll give you an introduction about the tool, what it does, the problem that we faced while we were creating this tool, why we built this, what are the core features of the time machine. I mean, I hate talking too much, and I hate theory, so I have a lot of live demos that I've prepared from our active engagements that we do on a daily basis, be it our red team, pen tests, or bug bounties. So I'll be showing you a lot of videos and stuff and techniques that we incorporate while using this tool. And we'll be talking about what's next and how we're evolving this tool on a daily basis. And then I'll open the room for some questions. So just giving you a highlight of this tool, we have already presented this at DEF CON, B-Sides Mumbai, and NLCon, and some other conferences in this year and past year. Talking about who I am, my name is Arjun Chaudhary. I go by the name of Chaudhary Saab online. That's my online handle. I work as a lead penetration tester at OnDefend in the United States. I do a lot of red teaming, mobile application pen testing on Android and iOS, and yeah, I'm an InfoSec trainer. I used to train a lot of InfoSec folks in various universities and enterprises. I'm a bug bounty hunter. I do bug bounty almost every day, apart from my work, apart from my job. I'm also a co-founder of CI Conference, one of the largest cybersecurity conferences held in India every year. I'm an open source contributor to various tools. I have other tools that I develop which I feel there's a need or there's a gap, and I generally make a tool out of it and put it on my GitHub. That's my friend. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it here. His name is Anmol. He goes by the name of friend of 7XF. He's a senior security consultant at NetSpy. He's also a bug bounty hunter. We generally do all our bug bounty stuff together. And yeah, he's been a really good contributor to the tool. I want to give a shout out before I start to all of these people, because this tool is community driven. It's not just me and my friend Anmol working on it. There have been a lot of other people contributing to this tool. And whenever I go to these conferences, I really encourage people, if they have any idea that they want to contribute or help grow this tool, please help us out. And it's worked out really well. So coming to the problem, why we thought that we need to build something of this sort. There are too many tools out there for recon. I mean, recon is super fragmented these days. I mean, you have a tool for subdomain, you have a tool for parameter extraction, then you have a tool to scrape the web, crawl the web, and then you need to correlate all of them together. You know, it becomes pretty messy, and especially for Wayback Machine. If you guys have used Wayback Machine, just by using Wayback Machine for recon, it's really messy. I mean, correlating manually, it's super time consuming. You tend to miss a lot of hidden endpoints, which actually can turn into a lot of good P1, P2 vulnerabilities on various assets or targets. So why I built, because I wanted something to be easy. I mean, as hackers, we need something, right in front of us. We don't need to open 70 different terminals to check for subdomains, or check for parameters, check for SQLi endpoints or XSS endpoints. So our goal was to actually merge all that together from Wayback Machine and present it in a single terminal so that we can take actionable steps on that. And to be honest, this tool has helped us gain a lot of Hall of Fames at Nokia, MediaTek, Certain, and many other enterprises all over the globe just by using this tool. I'll discuss that in our slides further on how we actually use this tool in daily basis. So our goal was to have one CLI which has Wayback Machine, recon, gets your backups, backup detection, takes all the backups that are available over there, and has different attack modes. We have XSS, SQLi, LFI, open redirects, and many more JWT parameter extraction, subdomain recon, and many other in one single CLI, so that you don't have to go and open 7 different terminals or use different tools for this purpose. So our core feature of this tool was divided into 3 categories. One is the archive intelligence, which basically queries the Wayback Machine that's up there. I'll talk about what Wayback Machine and CDX domains are for those who don't know what Wayback Machine is. Then it goes into the vulnerability recon engine, which basically detects for JWTs, backups, directory listing, and many more. And then it shifts to the offensive engine, which basically attacks on all those segregated endpoints and URLs and find vulnerabilities. So are you guys familiar with Wayback Machines? Have you guys used it before? Yeah, I mean, to people who have not used Wayback Machine, I would just give you a vague example. I mean, it's just a snapshot of every website that has ever existed. Most people just use it to see how website looked back in 2010 or 2005 or 1990s or whatever. Most of the people use it that way, but as hackers, we use Wayback Machine to get data out of it. It has a lot of snapshot, endpoints, parameters that you never knew ever existed on those websites. So as hackers, we see Wayback Machine as a resource for data rather than just looking at how it used to look back in the days. So that's what Wayback Machine is. And the CDX endpoint is basically an endpoint or an API call which Wayback Machine has, which displays all the URL in a text format. That's what our basically tool relies on. So that's how the Wayback Machine looks like. That's the website. You can just query any domain, and it's just going to tell you how it looked like on a certain point of time or certain year. So that's the main website, but we use this CDX endpoint. So that's the CDX endpoint that our tool is completely relying on. It queries this. So guys who have used Wayback Machine and Recon, if you just go and query this endpoint on a larger domain like tesla.com or google.com, it's going to pull up like 10 millions of URLs. And your browser is going to crash. So that was also one of the part that we took into consideration while building our tool. So we are using multi-threading in our tool, which basically queries this again and again with different user agents, so that you have all those 10 million URLs or 5 million URLs right in front of you in your terminal, and your browser doesn't do heavy stuff, or it doesn't have to load, and you don't have to wait for that. So our basic stuff, how it works is you input the URL, it queries the CDX endpoint, extracts URL, metadata, and feeds it into the recon module. Coming to the installation, it's pretty simple. If you just search TheTimeMachine on Google, it's going to give you our GitHub page, and you can install it by a really simple command. And there are hardly any requirements. I mean, most of the requirements are already there in your CLI machine or your terminal. So it's a one-click install. That's how the CLI looks like for our tool. So coming to how we actually use this, and this is like a demo that I'm going to show you. So a simple command to use it is, right now I'm showing it on testphp.vulnerab.com. This is already a vulnerable website that's out there for people to test their skills and stuff. So I'm using this for obvious reasons right now. So if you do the fetch --fetch command with our tool, it's going to fetch all the URLs on the CDX domain or whatever the Wayback archive has ever fetched. And it's going to give you in a matter of moment. As I told you, we're using multi-threading, so you don't have to wait for their endpoint or stuff to load. So it's just going to query back and forth and give you all those URLs right in front of you. Then another command that you can use with this tool is --backup. So it's going to look for backup based on our preloaded extensions like .zip, .sql, .xml. It's going to search for all that backups. So if you can see, I ran this on testphp.vulnerab.com, and I have all these backups that are there. And on the top is the extension list that we have already provided in our tool that it queries back and forth. Another cool thing about this is that it not only queries for backups in those URLs, but Wayback Machine also stores those backups. So if there was a backup back in 2020 from a website, Wayback Machine has already downloaded that backup. So even if that backup doesn't exist today on that URL, you can see that backup from 2020 if it's there on Wayback Machine. So whatever it downloads, it shows that to you as well. So just giving an example, on testphp.vulnerable.com, we were able to find this .sql backup, and if you just open it up, you can see the SQL stuff in there. So these are the backup extensions that I was talking about. We have a preloaded like 500 extensions, which we had a good luck with. So they are already preloaded, but if you want to add your more extensions, your backup extension that you want to look for in those URLs, you can do that as well. And when I was telling you that it also checks for the downloaded backup on the Wayback server, you can actually see that it gives you two URLs, one the archive URL and one the backup URL, if it's there on their server. If they downloaded the backup, it's going to pull that as well and show that to you in your CLI. So that's the server which basically downloads the backup on Wayback machines. So if the backup is there, you can just open the URL and it's just going to start the download. Coming to the real world scenario, so this is one of the top 4 consulting firms that we were working on as a bug bounty hunter, and we were able to find one of the backups just by using the same methodology as I told you. And apparently the backup wasn't available on their current site, but they had a backup from 2023, if you can see it in my screenshot. So this was annual reports and SQL backup. And I mean, once I open the zip, you can see that we also wrote a blog about it, and we had apparently like 100, 200 SQL files, if I remember correctly. And in these SQL backup files, there were admin credentials, AWS keys, and whatnot. And this is like big 4 consulting firms out there that we were pen testing on or doing bug bounty on. So this same methodology that we use to find backups that I showed you on test.php, and we were able to have this bounty on our card. Now coming to directory listing, this is another cool feature of our tool. If you just look at the command, you just have to type -- listing, and it is going to show you directory listings that are there on those URLs. Imagine if you're dealing with 5 million URLs. If you're just looking at a Wayback Machine and querying a domain, it has 5 million URLs. It's really hard to find all listings manually. So we automated that process, and we tested on testphp.vulnerable.com, and you can see that the admin listing is there, and it just pulled it up. Now showing you the real world usage of this. This was a fintech company that we tried on during our bug bounty process while we were using this as our tool for recon, and we were able to find a directory listing called weekly reports. I mean, if you are using a directory listing tool or a dictionary for brute forcing directories, it's really hard for you to actually have weekly reports in your _reports in your dictionary. But our tool was able to get that since Wayback Machine had it fetched. So using Wayback Machine and our methodology, we were able to find this weekly _report listing on that particular website, fintech website. It's a really big fintech website. And if you can see on the bottom, we have date of birth of their consumers, mobile numbers, email IDs, product type that they're interested in, appointment date, follow-up date, agent comments, and the guy who captured the lead. So we had, it was like 15, 16 gig of data that was there just in this. So this was a big fintech firm which they never realized that their directory listing or something was there on the web from 2023. So our tool was able to capture that, and yeah, it was a good P1, P2 vulnerability on HackerOne. Similarly, this is another real world usage which we recently got a couple of months ago. This is on the embassy website of India, and we reported that to their CERT, the Computer Emergency Response Team, and they actively responded to us and gave us a Hall of Fame just by using our tool. And yeah, it was the same directory listing vulnerability that we found, and it was all the products that the embassy and stuff were taking in or purchasing or buying from whoever vendor. So it was a lot of information disclosure that was there available online on Wayback Machine that our tool was able to fetch. Now coming to the attack modes. So once you are done with your recon, we have several attack modes that you can attack on the particular target: XSS, SQLi, LFI, Open Redirect, Jira vulnerabilities, finding WordPress, and also fuzzing the endpoints if you have a dictionary that you want to fuzz with. So I'll tell you how the attack modes are configured. So we have a database of all these payloads saved inside the database directory, which all these payloads actually run actively once you select whether you want to choose XSS, SQLi, or LFI. So coming to XSS, if you look at our payloads, we have general search terms, like where a common hacker would generally put their payload in, like ID equal to, username equal to, or URL equal to. So it's gonna filter that stuff out based on our extensions, and it's gonna give you a text format that you can run payload against and find XSS or SQLi. And you can also put it into a different tool, for example, Delphox or Burp Intruder, if you want to pipe into some different tools for your further exploitation. So that's the database I was talking about. Inside the database, we have stored all our payloads. It's in the same tools, TimeMachine's tool directory that comes with when you download it from GitHub. Coming to the real-world usage, this was actually on one of the biggest telecommunications website that we were able to find XSS on one of their username equals to parameter, and you can see that we just had a payload run by it and we had XSS on that particular stuff. So that question mark username equal to parameter was vulnerable that we found out on that particular target. Now another cool feature that our tool comes with is JWT extractions, and it also decodes the JWT tokens that are found on Wayback Machines that it has already fetched. So for that, you just need to supply your target and run --JWT. It's gonna look something of this sort. It basically fetches all those JWT tokens that are there online. I mean, I have redacted this for obvious reasons because this was on a site that we don't want to disclose yet. So we have redacted this for obvious reasons, but as you can see that it found JWT tokens and listed all those JWT tokens that it found. Next, what it does is it decodes those tokens and shows what information those tokens have. So you can see this is one of the examples that I put forward from one of our engagements, that it decoded all the stuff that it found on Wayback Machine. And the most interesting part was on a healthcare site that we were pen testing on, and we found 500 to 600 JWT tokens that were fetched by Wayback Machine. And when you decode them, I mean, our tool already decodes them. When you look at the decoded version of that JWT token, you can see that it exposed client ID, mobile numbers, health ID of that particular person. So we had like 500 to 600 people's mobile ID and health ID exposed from that particular healthcare company based out of Australia. So this is one of the features that our tool also covers, and we were able to get a good bounty out of it. Another cool feature that our tool covers based on Wayback Machine is parameter extraction. It extracts all the parameters. Suppose you're dealing with a bunch of URLs and you want to extract all the parameters. So you extract all those parameters, and then you can probably pipe it to different tools, Burp or SQL Map or any other tool of your choice that you want to tag those parameters with if you want to fuzz those parameters. So it basically lists all those parameters and saves it into a text file that you can export it to different tools. So that's also a cool feature of this tool. Then we have interactive menu. So this was our first build back in 2020. So this project started back in 2020, and we have a version 2 now. But back in version 1, we had this menu where you can just select what you want to do based on numbers. But one cool feature that I like about this was custom keyword search. If you want to search something on Wayback Machine or the CDX domain on the browser, again and again you have to press Control F to search different words. If you want to search for a username, if you want to search for admin, again and again you have to press Control F. But we wanted to overcome that, so we had this custom keyword search wherein you type in all your 20 or 30 whatever amount of keywords you want to search, and then you search it all together instead of doing that. So it was just an automation of our manual process that we want to overcome. So this is also a part of it. For this, you just need to type in menu, and it's going to give you, if you don't want to type in commands, it's just going to give you this menu item of our tool to play with. This is the output structure of a tool. So if you have a target, it basically gives target.com and all the URLs, all the commands that you run inside a single folder, so it's sorted. Because as bug bounty hunter and a red teamer, I want everything right in front of me. I don't want it to be fragmented, that I need to collect data from different sources. So my goal was to keep it right in one folder based on that particular target. So now I'll be talking about some real world usage and how we actually use it in everyday life, and how other people, other bug bounty hunters, use our tool in daily basis to get vulnerabilities. So we have had log founding AWS scripts in .zip files, finding deprecated WordPress admin panels, JWT tokens leaking personal informations and endpoints. We had some Jira vulnerabilities that led to other vulnerabilities subsequently. So these are some stuff that I'll be talking about. And this is a really cool vulnerability that we came up with on one of the targets, was using fuzzing option of our tool. So this is the Golang application that's running, and Golang application has a directory listing by the name of debug pprof, which basically gives a lot of information about the backend of the application, and you can do a DOS attack just by using this page. So our directory listing was able to find this endpoint on that particular target, which is pretty uncommon to find. So this was one of the really cool vulnerability that we were able to find with this tool. Next, coming to, as I told you, that a lot of people are also using our tools. So this person wrote a Medium article on how he actually used our tool to get a $400 bounty on HackerOne. So if you just search TimeMachine on Medium or X or Twitter, you'll find a lot of people, coming up with their own methodologies on how they are using our tool to actually engage in bug bounty and pen testing and finding good vulnerabilities. So one of the cool vulnerabilities, I'll be showing you a video. This was recorded a couple months ago, and this was pretty peculiar on how we were able to find excesses using our tool on 125 subdomains of that particular target. I'll be explaining it to you how this happened. I just recorded a video and a blog. We just wrote a blog out of it, and we'll be telling you how this was peculiar and how Wayback Machine was actually able to capture excesses. So if you look right now, we're just testing it on our target. We're just fetching the URLs of this particular subdomain. So once you run fetch, it's going to fetch those URLs from Wayback Machine. So it did fetch some URLs that we were able to see. I mean, it's redacted for obvious reasons because I don't think it has been patched yet. So now we have the URLs fetched. Now we'll run the attack mode called excesses. So if you can see right now, I'll be running the excesses attack mode. Why is this there? So I just ran the excesses attack mode command on that particular subdomain that we pulled in. And can you see right now what it pulled out? Once I ran the attack mode, what it pulled out was a parameter called username equal to with an exact excesses payload. This was pretty peculiar to us, that why would we get an excesses payload? And when we looked into the Wayback Machine stuff while doing this, we realized that this might have been some staging testing or some pen testing being conducted when Wayback Machine actually snapshotted or recorded that particular endpoint or that subdomain with the payload being fired. So you can see that this subdomain had the payload right injected into it. So we just went and tried to see if this payload still works. So we copied the URL and pasted on the browser, and we have accesses. So we knew that this payload is working, and this is a big telecommunication website. We got a Hall of Fame out of them as well back in the days using this tool, but yeah, we're testing them again, and this is pretty peculiar to us that why would they have this URL embedded, and our thought was that it could have been coincident that Wayback Machine just snapshotted it, and we have this payload, and this is still working. So what we did was, since we wanted to make a bounty out of it, we were like, no one's gonna accept it because it's probably there, or they're still testing in their staging environment. We just did a Google Dork on that particular subdomain and the endpoint that was visible in the Wayback Machine. So if you can see, I just did a Google Dork on that particular stuff. And on those Google Dorks, I was able to find like 20, 25 other subdomains and stuff. And with the same username endpoint and the same payload, I was able to attack those other 25 other subdomains that were pulled by Google Dorking. So as you can see that we just did a simple Google Dork on that particular subdomain and endpoint and fired the same payload. And we had like 20, 25 different subdomains that were vulnerable in that same order to that same payload. So that's how we were able to find accesses on that telecommunication website, which was pretty peculiar to us. Another cool stuff that I'll be talking about was this was one of the big health insurance companies based out of Australia that I was doing a pen test on. So the first thing that I do is I run this tool whenever I want to do a pen test. So while I was doing pen test, I just did a fetch, and I was able to get some 100, 200 PDFs that were available on that particular target. So once I look into PDFs, I was like, oh, they're only PDFs. No one gives a damn if you just see a bunch of PDFs online. I was like, okay, why not just go and look into it? So I looked in the first PDF. I was able to find their entire roster relying on Wayback Machine. Any hacker with some sense of how to use Wayback Machine can look into this stuff and see what employees this company has, a big health insurance company in Australia. What kind of employees do they have? What's their shift? When are they coming in? Their complete roster. Next, I was so intrigued as a hacker that these PDFs look interesting. Why not just have fun with it and look into more of these PDFs? I found a cPanel login training PDF that was there, and this actually had username and password. So as a hacker, what would I do? I would just go and log in. So with the same URL stuff that's there in this PDF, I went in and logged in, and I had the complete access to their cPanel. So just by looking into that PDF and logging in, I had complete access to their cPanel. I can delete domains, their main domains, all their subdomains, and all their endpoints as an admin. This was a PDF that was found on Wayback Machine. I have this. I can do whatever I like. I probably control their entire domain and their online presence now. I was like, why not look into some more PDFs? I was looking into more PDFs, and I was able to get this messaging calling system that they had for VoIP messaging and VoIP calling to their clients or their customers. Again, I found a username and a password and a URL. I was like, why not just log in? So I logged in, and again, I have access to their VoIP server. I was able to view all their messages, all their client calls, all their customer interaction, who are they calling to, and I can probably, burn all their tokens calling to my friends. So this was a really cool finding that I had on one of my targets when I was pen testing, just by using this tool. Because people don't realize what's on the internet and what the internet is saving. So that's what we actually utilized as a hacker to get more insights or exploit vulnerabilities based on just information that's being recorded from Wayback Machine. So this is a community based tool, as I've been telling you. A lot of people are making YouTube videos on how they are using this tool in their active bug bounty or pen testing purposes, and coming up with new methodologies that even we have not tested and finding vulnerabilities just by using this tool. So you can have a look at what other people are doing and feel free to use this tool and give me feedback on how this tool has turned out to you. What's next? We're planning to add some more data endpoints, not only from Wayback Machine, but from Alien Vault, search.sh, and other providers who actually save snapshot of websites and endpoints on daily basis. So we're trying to pull in that as well from different data sources to make our tool more comprehensive, and it should be able to have more data for a hacker or a security professional to look into or exploit further. So that's my time, guys. Any questions? I'm open to questions.
Anyone have any questions? No?
If not, guys, feel free to connect to me on my LinkedIn. That's my website, and that's our GitHub repo. If you want to have fun with this tool, please do. And if you want to have more ideas that you want us to implement, please feel free to add a comment to our repo. That's all, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arjun.